Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Federal immigration officers are being sent to some airports as the partial government shutdown continues. Security lines at the San Diego International Airport were running smoothly this afternoon, but KPBS reporter Katie Anastas says workers are still feeling the pressure.
President Donald Trump said this weekend that immigration and customs enforcement agents would go to airports to help with security. The Department of Homeland Security would not confirm whether that includes the San Diego International Airport for, quote, operational security reasons. Here, Transportation Security Administration workers continue to work without pay.
Stress is at an all-time high right now. Morale's at an all-time low.
Robert Mack is a lead transportation security officer for TSA. He's also the chief steward for the TSA Workers Union. He says staff have been working without pay since February 14th, 3 months after last year's 43-day shutdown ended.
I was blessed to have a little bit of a savings, but even here, it's like things are getting real tight.
DHS says more than 400 TSA workers have quit and thousands have called out from work during the shutdown. This morning, San Diego airport officials updated travel guidance online to suggest that travelers arrive 2.5 hours before their flights. Matthew Raska and Jessica Thomas took that advice. They flew in from Atlanta on Friday.
It was way worse. We were in line for 2.5 hours in Atlanta.
The Associated Press reported seeing ICE agents at the Atlanta airport today. Thomas says TSA workers are caught in the middle of the federal budget impasse.
All workers are important, especially federal employees, and one should not be preferred over the other. So if ICE agents are making money working airport security, then TSA agents should be making money working airport security.
Democrats have refused to fund DHS without changes to certain immigration enforcement policies. Immigration and customs enforcement agents are still being paid because the One Big Beautiful bill allocated billions of dollars to the agency last year. The San Diego and Imperial Counties Labor Council has set up a hardship fund for local TSA workers. Mac, with the TSA union, asks airport travelers to be patient as they do their best. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
Well, the heat is still on during the day, but we're getting some relief at night. Temperatures are running above the historical average for a late March evening or night. We'll bottom out around 60 in San Diego, so we are running warm out there, 48 in Ramona. But this intense March heat wave is continuing week 2 here. Many monthly records have fallen. The record heat is restricted into the southwest this Monday, and it's going to be expanding back into the plains at midweek. No rain in sight. We'll have your full forecast ahead.
Federal data show energy prices have been rising faster than inflation since 2022. A new bill in Congress seeks to provide relief from those prices. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer tells us what's in the plan.
Congressman Mike Levin chose the Solana Center for Environmental Innovation in Encinitas for an event to promote the Energy Bills Relief Act. Levin's a co-author of the bill. He says it would ensure Americans have access to renewable energy, which he says is now the most reliable and low-cost source of power available.
The price of wind and solar is not subject to the whims of foreign conflicts or volatile global commodity markets. Certainly nothing like what we're seeing right now with the Strait of Hormuz and the war in Iran.
He says the war in Iran has led to rising costs for oil and gas, which affects the cost of electricity.
This war did not create our energy affordability problem. It's making an existing crisis dramatically worse.
One of the top priorities of the new bill is to reinstate tax credits that were cut in last year's One Big Beautiful Bill Act, including for electric vehicles and home energy improvements. Supporters of that act said it prioritizes America First energy.
This administration is throwing every bureaucratic obstacle it can find at wind and solar while rolling out the red carpet for fossil fuels. Our legislation stops that. We set strict standards to keep clean energy projects moving and to reverse the billions in canceled clean energy investments.
Levin says the new bill would also reward utilities for making their systems more efficient, crack down on price gouging, and provide financial assistance to families to make sure their power stays on. And facilities like data centers would have to pay for their own costs.
Specifically, a bill called the SHIELD Act is included in our package here to make sure that data centers are paying for their own electricity instead of offloading those costs onto you.
While his bill has 120 Democratic co-sponsors, Levin says it's very unlikely to pass soon in the Republican-controlled House. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Attorney General Rob Bonta is challenging offshore oil drilling in California, which recently resumed near Santa Barbara. This more than a decade after authorities stopped it. Today's lawsuit aims to stop the Energy Department's use of pipeline capacity prioritization and allocation order as the basis for the drilling. Bonta says the order infringes on California's sovereign power under the 10th Amendment. Environmentalists say the region has experienced devastating oil spills over the years.
This pipeline is the same pipeline that broke back in 2015. It wasn't replaced. So we're talking about restarting a pipeline that already caused an environmental and economic disaster in California. And we're talking about doing it without even making the repairs that the state said are necessary to restart it safely.
Sable Offshore Corporation bought the 3 oil platforms just off the coast 2 years ago and fought to get them reopened. This is Attorney General Bonta's second lawsuit against the Trump administration over its efforts to restart the pipelines. San Diego County is getting closer to a referendum on major county governance reforms. For this week's Why It Matters segment, Voice of San Diego's Scott Lewis says new polling data is the latest step in getting these changes on the ballot.
We broke the news several weeks ago that County Board of Supervisors Chair Tara Lawson-Remer, along with labor and progressive groups, were talking about extending term limits and maybe creating a new elected position to lead the county, a San Diego County mayor. Voters would have to approve whatever they came up with. Now we have finally obtained a poll that Lawson-Remer commissioned to see what voters thought. We also got the receipts on how much that poll cost county taxpayers. In total, Lawson-Remer spent almost $90,000 of taxpayer funds on polls to see what residents thought of the reform and potential tax increases. There was some bad news for her. The respondents think the county is currently going in the wrong direction. But there was good news for her idea for reform. Respondents to the poll were overwhelmingly supportive of making a change. The poll found that 54% of residents believe the County of San Diego is headed in the wrong direction, and that compares to 34% who said it was going in the right direction. And 79% of respondents said they were supportive of the ballot measure, at least how it was described, as an effort to increase government transparency with no extra cost. People were very supportive of restricting county supervisors to 3 terms in office. The thing is, currently, they are only allowed 2 terms. The question made it sound like they were putting new term limits on rather than allowing supervisors like Lawson-Remer to stay in office longer. They'll be having hearings shortly to put something on the November ballot. I'm Scott Lewis for Voice San Diego, and that's why it matters.
And Voice of San Diego is one of our partners for the Public Matters Initiative. You can learn more at kpbs.org/Public Matters.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the News Hour, a fatal crash at LaGuardia's airport further compounds issues for air travel. That's at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
AI-generated content is becoming more realistic. We've seen the images and the videos used in all types of contexts, from parody videos to political ads, even war propaganda. Lee Waldman explains how you can verify whether what you're seeing online is real or not.
We can't really trust our eyes anymore to authenticate media.
AI technology has been rapidly advancing, becoming more sophisticated and harder to spot.
We're seeing them used for anything from disinformation, influence campaigns, to perpetuating fraud and economic crimes.
In these early weeks of the war with Iran, video has popped up showing a barrage of Iranian missiles striking Tel Aviv, Israel. Another shows people fleeing an Iranian attack at an airport. And a third appears to show captured U.S. Special Forces personnel. All of these fake. Dr. Matthew Stamm, a professor at Drexel University, explains we've seen these types of videos before with the Russia-Ukraine war.
Anytime you have a major news event, particularly a political conflict, we should expect to see fake and manipulated media showing up.
While AI is becoming more believable, Stamm says his lab has developed technology to detect it.
When generative AI creates an image or your camera, there's processing that happens inside that algorithm or inside that device that leaves behind minute traces that our eyes can't see, but we can mathematically characterize.
Hani Fareed with Get Real Security says the best way to avoid being duped online is to look to trusted sources like news organizations.
Stop getting your news and information from Twitter and Facebook. It's not what it was designed for, and it's not what it's good at.
In New York, I'm Lee Waldman.
The cost of groceries continues to go up, and consumers could soon be faced with even higher prices because of the war with Iran. Jen Sullivan explains why.
Grocery bills continue to rise. A family of four now spends between $1,000 to $1,600 on food every month, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And farmers say those prices could go even higher. They're facing surging costs that will likely be passed on to consumers.
Our food supply is national security.
Kevin Maynard is a soybean and corn farmer in Missouri. He's been farming since 1982. Soybeans are used in a variety of products like animal feed, food, and bio.
We can plan and we can make the best decisions that we can, but it's all subject to Mother Nature and the cost of inputs.
By inputs, he means things like labor, machines, seeds, and fertilizer. The war with Iran has caused vast disruption to the world's oil supply. Most fertilizer is made from products from the energy industry. So as oil and natural gas prices rise, so does the price farmers pay for the necessary ingredient in their crop cycle.
I'm worried because most farmers have taken equity out of their farms for the last 2 years to just be able to keep going.
And now is the time farmers like Maynard are getting everything ready that they need for spring planting season.
We made a budget to put in a crop, and overnight we saw the production of that crop increase by about $53 an acre.
They're also facing surging gas prices. Most farm equipment takes diesel, which is averaging over $5 a gallon nationally, up 42% from a month ago. The American Farm Bureau Federation sent a letter to the White House recently urging the Trump administration to take immediate action and warned food prices could go back to 2022 levels when inflation reached 40-year highs. And farmers like Maynard will be forced to make tough decisions.
We just can't go any further, and that's the sad part.
Maynard says many farmers will raise their prices, and that could mean higher prices at the grocery store. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
Probiotics, or good bacteria, are often used to rebalance the human gut microbiome. A balanced gut means the good bacteria can control bad bacteria. Well, new research at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography is focusing on developing a probiotic for plants. KPBS environment reporter Tammy Murga says it's one of the first projects out of its newly launched Soil Health Center.
Take a measurement. We're at 18.2 centimeters.
Kristen Barber is a researcher at UC San Diego. She's keeping track of how tall 2 lettuce groups grow and how many leaves they sprout. One is the control group. The other has received a few drops of a mixture of bacteria and fungi. It's a probiotic for plants.
Lemonade.
Researchers predict the blend they're developing will give plants the microbes they need to grow healthier and stronger. If it works, they hope to help farmers rely less on chemical fertilizers and preserve microbiomes in soil. It's like replacing human supplements with whole foods, like yogurt or fermented vegetables.
What we're really trying to understand with this experiment is the order of the addition of the bacteria and fungi and when the plant growth promoting effect is most effective.
Sarah Allard directs UC San Diego's new Soil Health Center at Scripps Institution of Oceanography. She says adding microbes to soil hasn't been studied enough. One of their flagship projects is developing a soil probiotic. She's testing it here at Coastal Roots Farm in Encinitas.
We're really interested in understanding more about that plant microbe interaction and how we can potentially boost the microbes or even add additional microbes that can point the plants in a direction that is beneficial for food security and climate resilience.
Scientists are still trying to fully understand how microbial ecosystems affect plant growth. What they do know is that microbes are these teeny tiny organisms that support plants in many ways. They can influence which nutrients plants can take from the soil and even help them resist stress, like a drought. But if you're a farmer, how do you know which and how many of these microscopic organisms are best for your crops?
And we feed the soil because we know that in a tablespoon, there's many different figures out there, but 50 billion microbes. Many good, many bad, many non-existent if they don't have the other to work with. I can't tell you anything about that other than watching the fields, smelling the soil, and tasting the food.
Adam McCurdy is a farmer at Coastal Roots Farm in Encinitas. He uses organic and regenerative practices like cover cropping and minimal tilling. Those practices help restore the soil structure and nutrients. But Barber with UCSD says soil microbes also need to be restored. And that's where the Soil Health Center comes in.
We're trying to add on that extra level of regeneration that they haven't necessarily focused on and that they can't focus on because you can't see the number of microorganisms in the soil or what they're doing. So I think for us, we're really trying to bring in that microscope.
Allard says this approach makes the Soil Health Center unique. Experiments at the farm compare how crops grow with probiotics. Farmers give feedback, and scientists fine-tune their approach.
Those are the things that the farmer need. If they're going to add a new product to the field, they really need to know that it's going to work effectively and consistently and not disrupt their operations.
Researchers are perfecting their probiotic formula and learning when the application needs to happen. Barbara says they can then investigate practical ways farmers can apply the probiotic.
So right now we can just apply it in its liquid form, but something that might be more shelf-stable might be something like a dried powder.
Allard says there are many benefits to human health and the planet when soil health is improved. For one, the stronger the root is, the more planet-warming carbon can be stored in the soil.
It's also important for our food security, for our resilience to climate change, to have really robust soils that can be resilient across all the challenges that they face.
Researchers say they're interviewing more farmers in San Diego County to better understand how, together, they can support healthy food production. Tammy Murga, KPBS News.
The latest episode of the KPBS podcast, The Finest, dives into the world of plant identification, how nature lovers are helping scientists build a global biodiversity database, all with an app. You can listen now at kpbs.org/thefinest or wherever you get your podcasts. And look out for a new episode this Thursday. California wine producers have been struggling with a slowdown in business in recent years. Kara St. Cyr spoke with some experts about what's going on in the state's wine country.
In Mike Hendry's world, the only constant in the wine industry is change.
It does feel like what we're experiencing now is different.
The wine industry is facing a massive decline in sales. A 2025 report from the Wine Institute showed that U.S. wine exports dropped by 35%. And in Northern California, 4 wineries have announced closures or layoffs just this year.
There's been a lot of optimism around the wine business here for the last 20 plus years, and there's less of that right now, for sure.
But if you ask Rob McMillan, the founder of the Wine Industry Group, the issue is simple: overproduction and not meeting consumers where they are.
I think our industry is a little bit too stuck on the way that we have done things for 25 years. It's been like that long.
McMillan says wineries flood the market with too many cheap wines, cater largely to baby boomers, and haven't adapted to newer consumers who drink less and value different tastes.
Those consumers drink across categories. So they drink beer, wine, and spirits, while the boomer generation had a tendency to drink more toward wine.
While McMillan says the industry's outlook is bleak right now, he says conditions might improve if wineries expand to other states, slow production, and market to a more frugal buyer.
These are all different lots of wine. This is 2025 Zinfandel from our Block 7.
But not everyone is feeling the wine crisis the same way. Hendry Ranch Wines, Mike's small family-owned vineyard, is seeing a burst of interest, which makes him optimistic for the industry as a whole.
There's no doubt that sales are down, and I think there are a combination of reasons for that. But they're not catastrophically down, and I think that, you know, this is a bump in the road and not a, you know, it's not a train wreck.
A toast to better days to come.
Well, we are dealing with a pretty relentless string of days with persistent heat here. Daily record highs continue to be challenged each day, especially inland, a little east of San Diego proper. Relentlessly dry, and there will be some relief this coming weekend, but that's still 5 days away and into next week. But it's still Monday evening. We got a ways to go. Some more talking points specifically tied to week 2 of this intense southwestern March heat wave. Many monthly records have been broken, and we expect to see the heat peak again in places near Salt Lake City and Denver, by the way. For now, though, the heat is restricted to our corner of the nation here in the southwest. Expanding ridge of high pressure will carry the heat back into the plains at midweek, and we've certainly seen an early end to the wet season, so we're dry out there. Intermittent clouds tonight, 60 for your low, and by the way, the reservoir levels are still looking good, generally, at least on a statewide level, above average. Now, Castaic Reservoir is running a little below the historical average for this time of the year, but most of these reservoirs are doing well because we've had a couple of decent wet seasons, a few of them in the recent rearview mirror. With that said, most of our snow was in the front half of the wet season, and the southern Sierra, about a 44% below average shortcoming right now. So we're at 56% of normal. 100% would be normal for this time of the year. Look at the northern Sierra, only 16% of average. So the heat and the dryness have been leading to dwindling snowpack. We're still sizzling on Tuesday, 86 in Ramona, 84 in El Cajon, 72 in San Diego, though, and we'll be around 95 in Borrego Springs. So kind of sizzling on March standards. Storm track diverted well to the north. There are some showers way up in Northern California, but not for us here on Wednesday, as the heat expands at midweek into the plains, and it still is pinned in the southwest as well. So the weather pattern this week, ridge in the west, trough in the east, cooler in the east, and we're holding on to the heat in a relentless way. Let's take a look at a few local forecasts here. Coastal areas in the 70s. We're going to see a slight increase into Thursday, hovering in the mid-70s Friday and Saturday. Inland areas consistently in the 80s. The hottest day may end up being Friday. We'll find some relief then next weekend. In the mountains, we're in the 60s, upper 60s. Saturday still warm. We're waiting for Sunday and Monday as we begin to cool down there. And in the deserts, here we are pinned in the upper 90s most days, 95 Tuesday, but 99 again on Wednesday, and still 98 Thursday and Friday. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
Today is National Puppy Day, celebrated every year to honor the love we have for puppies and the way that they bring love to our lives. It's a day to pamper our dogs, support shelters, and promote proper care. And like a lot of things these days, the cost of pet ownership is rising. Here's Michael Yoshida with more on how to navigate these costs.
Recent data shows pet costs and services aren't immune to inflation. In fact, some categories are outpacing it. Of course, our pups, our dogs, they're pretty much members of our family, and you can't put a cost on their love and impact. Still, we spoke with experts for some suggestions on how to try and handle these rising costs.
A puppy love reality check.
Getting a puppy is undisputably one of the most joyous things in the world, but it also comes with a complex financial commitment.
Veterinarian Rebecca Greenstein says for many, pet needs and costs are no longer discretionary, but essential, and often a 10-plus year commitment, including food, dog walkers and sitters, training, grooming, and veterinary care. Costs which Greenstein says people grossly underestimate.
Sort of a perfect storm of tariffs plus inflation plus the humanization of our pets.
A recent report from Rover found average lifetime care for a 10-year-old dog costs about $35,000. Federal data also shows pet and food service costs rose sharply since 2019. But there are things pup parents can do to make it a little less rough on their wallets. Have pet insurance. Greenstein says what used to be a luxury is now a bare necessity and can help with unexpected big veterinary costs. Shop around for best options for you and your dog. Also, don't ignore routine care like vaccines and parasite prevention. And invest in training to stop dangerous behaviors like running across the street or eating things that are harmful.
Those types of things are so often overlooked, but they will save you tremendously over the lifetime of a pet.
Dog trainer and author Kathy Callahan says developing a good relationship with a vet can help too.
We are partners in the care of this animal. The more you trust your vet partner in this, the more you're going to be able to come up with some solutions.
And those we spoke with said buying dog food in bulk and early can help with some of the rising costs. Also make use of all the loyalty programs you can. And of course, for National Puppy Day, we want to see some pups. So take a look. Here's some puppies from Canine Companions. This a service dog provider, a national nonprofit. You can see those puppies sleeping, learning to socialize and play with each other. Just one way. If you don't have pups at home, maybe you can go online, find a live stream, can get in on some of the fun for this National Puppy Day. In Washington, I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
Oh, well, we definitely need more stories like that. Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act made interest on car purchases tax deductible. NPR's Morning Edition breaks down who is eligible, how it is claimed, and what are the savings. And KPBS Midday Edition is talking to author and journalist Chris Jennings about his book, which details the Ruby Ridge standoff between federal agents and the Weaver family in 1992. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.